You might think like you're losing your time. It's something that we're really missing. I'm doing is called like habit stacking. Hello and welcome back to my channel. On this channel we are talking about language learning and also multi-passionate hobbies. So people, they have a lot of hobbies. So if you like, stay tuned. And in today's video I wanted to share 4 tips that I'm recently using with learning Korean. So I've been learning Korean on and off for years. But I had time where I was really intentional in learning Korean and time where basically I just put it aside. But I realized there are a few things that I like to do and that I can continue doing that can help me progress in Korean, but also that will basically feel part of my daily life. So the first 2 tips are about input. So if you follow the refold method, the immersion method, you will know how input are important. Just to give you a little bit of background, if this is really not something you're familiar with, immersion learning, refold method, all of these are basically the foundation of you should get exposure as much as possible to the language, whether it be via reading, listening, via watching a video, or basically being surrounded by people that talks to you in the target language. There are a lot of people that believe literally just talking to people in the target language is the best, but this is not always achievable and it's very difficult. But I definitely recommend immersion. That's, I think, one of the ways that I've progressed the most. So today's I have 2 immersion input tips. The first one is podcast, specifically graded Korean podcast, or in the language that you're working on or studying. But this video is about Korean, so I would specifically give you some Korean graded podcast. When I say graded, is actually podcast made fully in Korean. So the language would be 100% Korean, that are made by native Korean, targeted towards Korean learners. That is very important. Obviously, you can watch and listen to Korean content, native or by foreigners, done in Korean, but because the audience is not learners, it will be much more difficult and you might think like you're losing your time. That can be helpful, but definitely if you want to get as much as input as possible, it's best to have comprehensive input. That's another way to put it. So I have 3 really good recommendation. Number 1 is Didi's podcast, a really cute, lovely girl. I love everything that she does. And you also have All Thing Korean podcast. I believe that he also have, maybe, I think, I'm not sure, but there is also, yeah, I think it's this one. He also have a YouTube channel on games. I just have to double check that, but I think so. And the last one is Brother Yoon, another amazing podcast that I really love. And all of those things, what they have in common is that you can find the script or you can find what they're saying written in Korean. I believe Didi's, maybe she also, I think she adds subtitle to her videos, but also via the podcast on Spotify with All Thing Korean podcast. He has the subtitle in Korean, which is amazing. And Brother Yoon, something more amazing, he provide on his website the script with also vocab, which is crazily valuable. I will also show you in another video how am I analyzing or how do I work with the podcast with Brother Yoon. It's very great the way I'm doing it. It's repetitive learning, but really amazing. That's gonna be for another video. So I have those 3 podcasts which really amazing. So that's for people that would like to listen and read, listen to the audio and read the script. You can also have a first time that you listen to the audio and then you listen and you read the script. You can do as much as you want, as long as you want. You can put it when you're traveling, or you can sit in front and do really intensive and active listening. It's really up to you, but this is free resources that I find extremely valuable for lower to upper intermediate, I would say. At least that's more or less where I am located in terms of my level, and those are very comprehensive. Then the second one is also input, but this time is written input. I've discovered really nice newsletter in Korean. It was actually very difficult to find. I mean, not that difficult, but still, I figured out that if I want to improve my comprehension of Korean, I have to find written content that I actually enjoy. So I really recommend you to find a topic or an area where you really like the industry. Like, I personally love to travel. So what I do is that I found a newsletter about traveling, and it's each week you have a new destination, and she will talk about like the temperature there, or what to do, what are the hot spots. It's really great. The newsletter about traveling is entitled 여행 어디로 갈까. It's really great. I think it's quite short, which I really love. And every week they will have recommendation on place to go. For example, last week was a Japan city, like a small Japanese city. And then within this region or city, then you can go to another small place. Really great. So you learn about traveling. So that's really great. Then the second part is about output. Obviously, the whole refold in immersion method, everybody has their own opinion. Some people believe that output is not required at the beginner or intermediate stage. I believe input is as much as important if you find it useful for you. I love to speak, I love to write in another language. This is why I am doing it. I am not doing it only to understand. I am doing it because I want to communicate or to write in another language. So for me, input is very important, and I decided to include it in my language learning. So what I do, number one, I journal in another language. So what I'm doing is called like habit stacking, and I will try to combine multiple things to make one task 10 times productive, like 10 times more, like achieving more things. So what I do is that I do a weekly journaling. So I am writing every weekend how was my week and what I have done. So I'm not sure, but yeah, so you would have, that was second week of January. So I will have every day something that I will write about what I've done in Korean. It's really great because I have time to reflect on the week and also remember what I'm maybe grateful for, what I've achieved, what didn't went well. So that is part of the personal development. So I'm journaling, but I'm journaling in another language, which is really great because I also have to look for vocab words. But then some weeks, the same vocabs come back, and then I'm usually used to typing, or I can really quickly do the auto type if I'm on my phone. But when you have to handwrite everything, you have to remember exactly where do you put the key up? Is it down or is it up? Like it's a lot, so it's really great for that. I also decided to pick Asian art, basically diary, Asian art diary, and on each page or each double page you would have one piece of art. So I can also learn every week about one new piece of art that is from Asia, because I think it's sometimes underrepresented and I'm quite interested in art. So yeah, that's a way where I stack 3 things in one. I do the journaling, I do it in Korean, so I improve my Korean, and I'm learning about Asian art, which is great in general. So that was the first tip in terms of output. Another thing that I really recommend for the output is to talk to someone. I know that might seems a little bit scary, or let's say difficult, but I really recommend finding someone that you can talk to in Korean. I'm talking to a colleague regularly, not all the time, but once per week, sometimes a little bit more. But every time that I'm talking to her, it requires me to really dig into my head. Like, how can I talk to her? She's also older than me, but not so much. So, 존댓말 with her, I try to be polite instead of banma, because I tend to use quite informal language, and this is not always great. So I try to use polite language. So those are basically my 2 tips on output. I also have some recommendation, and those are for Substack. It's a newsletter platform. So I found this really amazing newsletter from Korean through fiction. This is a bilingual newsletter that it's for free, that you will find English and Korean fiction or paragraph or text. It's really great. I really recommend it. I'm not very consistent with reading everything, but I think it's a really great resource. I think it's a little bit upper intermediate to advanced, but it's a really great one. It's on Newstacks. Yeah. I also have another Substack that really provides a lot of valuable information, and this one is called Korean Tutor K. Really great. It breaks down grammar, but also usually it will use things like, oh, do you know how to say? But nunde doesn't only mean contradiction. I recently watched a show where Chae Soo-bin, she would come in and she say, oh, I'm all wet. But one of the guests or the people that were in the show said, oh, 예쁘는지. It's like, nevertheless, almost like you're still very pretty, even if you're soaked. So it explains you a little bit of nuance of the grammar. And I think it's something that we're really missing at the intermediate level. You are learning new things, but sometimes it's very hard to remember all of this. It's like when you hear it, you understand. But sometimes when you have to use it, it's very difficult. So yeah, those are the 4 tips that I have, plus the extra, more grammar study part. But I really think the input and the output will already give you a lot of progress. So I hope this video was useful. I will also work on how I'm usually using podcasts to study. And I will also do a video on how to study in terms of niche, because that's something that I realize that I really like to do, and it's very valuable. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.